welcome to Bywire Interviews. I'm Michael O'Sullivan, and today, or this evening, I am joined by the Block.one co-founder, Bitcoin Foundation president, chief of Helios VC, philanthropist, economist, and futurist visionary, true to his word, interviewing me in person, or me interviewing you in person in Puerto Rico, none other than Brock Pierce. Thank you very much, Brock, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be able to answer all these questions for all of you now. Well, make sure to tune into Bywire.
Thank you so much, Brock. Okay, well, let's dive into it because we've got a lot to get through today. So, Brock, I think it's fair to say that this week has been a traumatic week within the EOS community. We all thought a deal with B1 was going to happen a few days ago, but then sadly that has not happened. We have got to the point where the block producers have put forward the so-called nuclear option. They have frozen the unvested tokens. It's not a paltry amount of tokens. We're talking 60 odd million tokens or more. But before we go any further, I have one question I want to ask you straight up. Is it true, and this is what we've heard today, that you made some untoward comments towards the EOS Network Foundation's principal, Yves La Rose? Those comments included, I will bury you alive, I will make sure you never see the light of day again, and I will get on your neck and break it. And then additionally, you mentioned that you can speak to the President of the United States kind of whenever you want to. And that created a certain amount of additional pressure and fear towards Yves. Now, I've spoken with Yves, I've spoken with Zach, and I've spoken with Aaron from Greymass. And I've got 3 sources to corroborate this. So I guess my question to you is, did you say those things? And would you like to take this opportunity to either stand by those words or to change your words?
Well, let's start with a little bit of background to begin with. And we'll dive into this in different segments. So these conversations started in April. And I can unpack all of that, but these are not new conversations. Conversations about putting the tokens into the EOS Alliance, which the ENF emerged fine, funding Eden, taking my ownership in B1 and that becoming an investment fund, potentially the IP moving. This is not a recent conversation. This has been going on for a long time. The conversation began in a premise of the community threatening Block.one. Fast forward.
So in what way were they threatening Block.one?
Well, I guess let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
So Dan Larimer left Block.one. I immediately thought that this was a very bad thing. I'm like, oh, this is bad. I called up Brendan Bloomer and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, Brock.
CEO of Block.one.
Yeah. I call up the CEO of Block.one. I'm like, this is really bad. What's going on? He's like, Brock, this is really good. Dan was not able to do his best work within Block.one because of all the compliance and all the restrictions and all the things, and basically being a regulated company. Dan being free from Block.one is going to allow Dan to be the best Dan. I think this is really good. I'm like, that makes sense. I agree with that. Then all of a sudden, Dan and I are having a conversation, and Dan's like, Brock, I gotta go back and fix EOS. I'm like, that's exciting. Dan on chain, back in the game. All right, let's do this. I got super excited. And I'm like, all right, time for me to do the same thing. Let's go, baby. Time to get in here. Then I'm on a call with Dan. And and Ben Sigmund and other people were witness in the room for some of these conversations, Crystal, others. And Dan's like, Brock, what do you think about the idea of us taking all of Block.one's tokens? And basically, we shoot a shot into the Death Star, like right out of Star Wars.
And this was Dan Larimer's idea?
Dan's.
And this is April?
This is back in April, roughly April. I'd have to check dates, but I'm like, it's an interesting idea. I understand the sentiment, but let's talk about this.
So why was he proposing that at that time?
Well, remember he had just left Block.one and he didn't leave on good terms.
Do you know what terms he left on?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
I don't think it's my right to share the details of his financial transaction. I don't know what agreements he has in terms of non-disclosures and things. But what I will share to give some color is he didn't leave on good terms. Financially for himself, or in a good, I'd say a healthy, they didn't end, it wasn't a happy parting. It was, he got emotional and kind of rage quit.
Was he frustrated at Brendan? Is that anything you were able to talk about?
I don't think that was the issue from all my conversations, and I've had many. I think he was just tired of working in a place where he couldn't get the things done that he wanted. It was too restrictive.
And that's compliance.
Compliance, legal, regulators, all these things. And I think he just got fed up with it. I think that, yes, some of it is Brendan becomes the lightning rod, and takes the blame for all of it, but that isn't his fault. There are things beyond his control, right? There's circumstances that create the environment in which we live. It's raining. Sorry. Can't do anything about that. And that's the reality. I don't know how much he fully understood or appreciates that, but he didn't leave in a happy place. And there was spite. And so, like a lot of the community, he shared some of those views. And I don't think the economic deal he ultimately got was a good deal. But that's also because he didn't negotiate the right deal. He didn't mediate and, he didn't create an optimal breakup. How we separate in a relationship matters, right? That could have been done better. And I wish he had asked me to help him with that, because I could have, I think, really represented him well. But anyway, let's fast forward to that point. Makes that thing, then I end up, it's Dan, Yves, and I start having these conversations about this idea. And I'm like, I hear you. I understand the idea, but it's critical, in my view, that we try to optimize for a peaceful solution. Let me go deal with Block.one to try and work out a deal that involves their consent. We create a consensual outcome. The fact that you're putting this idea on the table, I think will give me the negotiating leverage behind the scenes to figure something out that works for everyone. We came to an agreement.
You and Block.one?
Everyone.
Okay.
Dan, Yves, Block.one, and I, we're all in agreement, but I'm the only one at that point negotiating in between. And the original sort of idea, because I'm making this up as we go, I'm like, maybe we take all those tokens. Maybe some of them stay with Bullish to support liquidity in the exchange. Maybe we take a big block of those tokens and give them to Eden, because Eden's just starting up now. Mm-hmm. Eden's not even live yet. Like, maybe we take a big block of those tokens and give them to the EOS Alliance, because that's what existed at the time. There was no ENF. And Brendan's like, Brock, there's one issue. You're a related party as a shareholder. To do this, I need you to be a non-active participant. You're going to have to relinquish your ownership in Block.one. He's like, maybe I can convert stock into tokens as part of this whole deal. And I'm like, great, that would allow me to do what I wanted to do at SECC.
Let's just pause there. So Dan came up with the idea initially to freeze the tokens, and now you're kind of pushing this forward and you're bringing this to Brendan.
Then Yves came in.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, should we do this? It's an idea. It wasn't, let's do this.
Yeah, it was just speculation.
Yeah, and I'm like, let's find a peaceful option. And we came to an agreement that would be the right thing to do. I called Brendan. Brendan's like, I'm on board with this. Let's figure this out. So we don't know what we're doing at this point. We're just trying to brainstorm an idea. And most of the elements of what you see now we came up with. I have so much respect for Yves. I so appreciate him. I just want to give him a hug and remind him how much I love him. And we've said that to each other many times throughout this process. He's just like, I got to get on a plane and come down, but I can't. And I just want to give you a hug. Thank you for doing all of this. And so we're going through all that. In the process, I'm giving play-by-play updates to Dan. And again, I have so much respect for Dan. None of what I'm saying is meant to be a criticism. Because I believe in privacy, and when people are having conversations where we've agreed that these are private conversations, that we adhere to our agreements, right? And so, me saying and giving all of this detail and color makes me a little uncomfortable, because I respect my agreements, and I do my best to honor them. And I'm sharing some things that are not something I would usually do, but the way that events have transpired, you know, I'm broadening some of what I can say, while still trying to be respectful, and honor them, because I think so highly of them. And we have one thing in common, all of us. We all want what's best for EOS. We may have different opinions of how we get there, but that's a good thing. That's how the best ideas rise to the surface. And so Dan took it upon himself. I'm giving him play-by-play, literally every detail of every conversation, to make sure that we're in agreement with what I'm doing.
And you guys are symbiotic at this point?
Yes, constant calls, just tons. Dan inadvertently screwed up the deal. It wasn't his intent, in my opinion. But as we're coming to consensus on a very big deal, doing all the things that we're still talking about, Dan started calling Brendan as I'm the point of the negotiation that's actually really good at this, and starts trying to cut a side deal.
Why do you think he did that?
Because Dan, with everything that happened at Steam It, you know, he feels he didn't have enough control, and so he has a control issue, and wants to do all the things. He wants to be the lead of the community, the lead of the tech, the lead of the business, the lead of, you know, because he's been burned in his mind. He's had bad experiences. I don't blame him for any of this. And so there's a pattern there, and some of those same experiences came out of Block.one. He wishes he had more control in his mind. If he did, that wouldn't have happened. And the idea of someone else being responsible for this when he just left made him uncomfortable. And so he, in my view, inadvertently, no bad intention, but not actually understanding how these things get done. We all have our gifts. We're not good at everything. I'm very good at this job. This is not Dan's core competency. But what he did unintentionally, in my view, when he starts calling up Brendan and saying, oh, well, we'll settle if you just give $1 million EOS to Eden, when I'm talking about a deal for $100 million. He showed Brendan that he doesn't have to do the big deal. He unintentionally sabotaged the negotiations and created an opportunity for division and conquer, divide and conquer. And that's not, Brendan was there. Commercial sort of terms were coming together. But you can't like go around the back door when someone is being so transparent with you and start trying to cut your own deal. I don't, Dan can answer this for himself. He just made a post which so doesn't illustrate a full understanding of the complexity of this.
You're talking about the post on the Telegram group today?
Yeah, it's like, because I don't think he fully understood that a related party transaction is an issue. I'm an active participant, and we had to unwind and fix a lot of things. This isn't Dan's skill. He doesn't want to know how the regulations work. He's like decentralization, just go. But that doesn't work for all of us. Some of us have to understand the rules and play within them. And so that, and again, I have so much respect. I don't mean for any of this to be a criticism. I appreciate Dan. Thank you, Dan, for all that you've done. We wouldn't be here having this conversation if it weren't for you. And by the way, we wouldn't be having this conversation also if it wasn't for Brendan and Block.one. It's very easy
For you.
or me. Like, I see what we did. And I'm happy to take responsibility for all my actions. You know, and the community needs this. We've needed this to heal. We have to unpack it all. We have to bring everything to the surface. And then we gotta like put it behind us. We gotta let the baggage go. We can't keep carrying this because we have to bring back trust. We have to restore faith. We have to heal as a community. We're gonna have to tear this Band-Aid off, which is gonna be painful, but then we heal. And so, I'm glad to be having this conversation. So that's, the negotiation breaks down at that point.
What kind of time period is this now?
This went on for 2 months, April, May, through the Eden launch into June. And I'm just like, I can't do my job like this. I'm literally handing out books of More Equal Animals to every person I meet. Just Eden, bringing people in as a witness, and just, I am so jazzed. Like, just like I've been feeling now. And then I'm like, every time we're about to have this breakthrough, the community's about to like have its moment, something happens. We hit a wall, and then it's just like.
So what happens? So we're in June now. So what's happening at this point? So you're starting to get a bit frustrated.
Well, then I throw up my hands, and I'm just like, I have a conversation with Dan. I'm just like frustrated. I'm talking to everybody, and I'm just like, all right, well, doesn't look like this was meant to be right now. Fast forward, the ENF happens.
This is September, roughly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ENF happens, and I'm just like.
So when did you first hear about the ENF? When everyone else heard about it?
Well, I'm paying attention, but yeah, generally, because I stopped focusing. I have a lot of other responsibilities. You either have my attention, right? What we appreciate appreciates, and I'm not going to invest my time and energy into something where it doesn't perform,
of course,
or produce. Right? I'll keep watering things if it's going to grow.
Yep.
And so I go back to the other things I'm doing. The ENF happens, and I'm like, wow, we have Eden. Early, but tremendous potential in governance. We have the ENF, and the BPs have approved funding. It's like the Treasury Department and financing public good. I'm like, we have the makings of what we were trying to work on, but it's not happening the way I thought it was, but it's still happening.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back involved. So I'm now jumping on the phone with Yves and the block producers, and we're talking about, okay, can we get these tokens? But these conversations, now it evolved from where before everybody seemed to want the same thing and the negotiations broke down because of how I said. Now the conversations didn't go from, we could do this. The conversations were very threatening from the first call.
From which side?
The ENF and the block producers.
So tell me how they were threatening specifically.
They said, Brock, we're going to do this unless Block.one comes to an agreement really quickly.
Prisoner's dilemma.
Prisoner's dilemma.
Okay.
And I'm like, Guys, same as before, we have to try and do this peacefully, with consent, or it could undermine the trust, not just of EOS, but all delegated proof of stake and node-based proof of stake. This is bigger than just us.
So what do you think changed then between sort of July time and September? Do you think it was the fact that the ENF had a bit more sort of passion or a bit more confidence in themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying how I see it.
Sure.
And again, it makes me uncomfortable not answering anything about myself. I'm an open book and I take full responsibility and I will answer to my actions. It makes me uncomfortable to talk about others in private conversations where there was agreed upon privacy. I think privacy matters. We want transparent systems, but we don't want a live camera in every one of our bedrooms, and we don't want to have a video of all of our private conversations because we'll never get anything done. People have to have uncomfortable conversations. People have to be able to speak their truth and disagree and have that discourse to get to the outcome.
Sure.
And so I care about privacy. I think it's, without it, I don't think we have a future worth living in. I think it matters. And this is where some of us may disagree. But the conversation started out very threatening with an arbitrary timeline that was never realistic because it didn't take into consideration the reality of public companies, lawyers, and just how it actually works.
Did you guys push back on the timeline at all and say, look, this isn't going to work?
I did. I said, I will re-engage. I will go back and let's get this deal done. You have my full commitment. I will do everything in my power to bring Brendan, Block.one, Bullish, everyone to the table to get a peaceful outcome because I think it has to happen that way. They agreed. Everyone came to consensus. Brendan agreed. All right. Hopeful, we got this again. We got it.
We did it.
All right. Well, because of all the lack of trust, and sometimes people just posting everything on the internet when there's supposed to be confidential conversations.
Who specifically? Is this the VPs or?
This is Brendan's nervousness.
Okay.
He's like, what if they're recording the calls? You know, can we trust them? I'm like, I believe we can. But considering what's at stake, we have to fly. I mean, I'll get him to come to us. He'll come to New York. He's like, I can't enter the United States. I'm like, all right, I guess we'll come to you. So I organize all of it. We fly over
to Canada
to sit down and have a very frank conversation.
Face to face, yeah?
Face to face, an entire half day.
Wow.
3 of us, as well as my chief of staff sitting in the room. It's just 4 of us. And we're talking for hours and hours and hours.
And it's a positive situation, everyone's feeling good, or a bit testy?
Positive. But, you know, there's, you know, I wouldn't call it was like kumbaya.
You negotiated?
Yes. But, you know, it was respectful.
Yeah.
A lot of respect, a lot of dignity, not threatening. Remember,
respectful.
Respectful. When you're in front of a person, people are more respectful. When you're on a phone, less so. When you're on the internet,
no respect.
And so it created a really healthy environment. And we kind of came up with a game plan.
Which was? Tell us the game plan at this stage.
The ideas that were talked about, we're back to everything we talked about. He's like, we need to get the IP. Okay, let's figure out how to do that. By the way, the IP is held in a public company called FPAC that isn't even Bullish yet, that has its own board of very conservative people that run the New York Stock Exchange that have no industry understanding. Once the deal's concluded, the board changes and has understanding. And it's in the middle of a public listing. Talk about the most complicated situation imaginable. That, just being realistic, that piece is highly complicated. And Brendan, who's not on the board or the CEO of that entity, can't speak on behalf of that entity. and say we're going to intend to do this, there's very serious legal implications.
Let me just interrupt you very briefly. Why did Block.one or Brendan transfer the IP to Bullish?
I don't think it was well thought through because of, hey, sometimes things don't get done the best way. We make mistakes, the benefit of hindsight. But the IP has value, a lot of value. It created these things, it's an asset. Bullish intends to support EOS and liquidity and trading pairs and all these things. So it made sense in some ways that it would go there. Because the deal at that moment wasn't contemplating transferring it. But now that it's there, you need fairness opinions, you need a whole lot of legal stuff. You can't just move assets around from a public company. There's like...
But you can make a public declaration of your intent.
But the company has to, not Brendan.
I agree.
Brendan can't. His hands are tied. And so you have to understand these things. It's not so simple. Brendan was completely clear on that intent. So the negotiations then continue on. And pretty much every one of these calls, I'm the man in the middle, are me receiving basically threats with arbitrary timelines. If we're going to do this or else if you don't have it done by this date. I'm like, I'm trying to make things happen. And then the first thing gets done. They agree to the tokens. The ENF is going to get those tokens, and that was not in the beginning.
That's about 30 million, right?
Yeah, and that Eden's going to get tokens, Pomelo's going to get tokens. You know, I have my deal to make me a non-active participant or a related party. We've now sorted out the whole token position. And it's publicly stated, and legal documents are being exchanged by both parties. Literally, they're in the legal docs. We're in the position of being executed.
Is this from Block.one side?
Both sides. They're in, literally full legals occurring before these events, right?
Okay.
Like, all right.
I didn't know that.
Nobody seems to. Because there's a lot of information being left out in these posts. As people often do, I don't criticize it. People like to put their best foot forward, and they sometimes leave out those things that we sometimes choose to ignore, maybe, right? There's a part of this that's human nature. And so the main piece of the deal, which is the economics, we have full commercial agreement. Full commercial agreement.
All parties aligned.
All parties are in agreement. Great. Now I'm like, great. Now the only other piece is the IP, and we're just explaining this is going to take a while. It couldn't happen until January at least, because the transaction has to be concluded. There's no way to actually do it. And they just kept calling and threatening it has to happen now or we pull the trigger. And I'm like, guys, it can't happen. They're like, it has to.
But was there no creative middle ground that could have been reached?
I was trying to. Literally, there's countless communications. Countless.
There's no way Bullish could have made a signal of intent.
But who's Bullish?
That's a corporation.
Yeah, and Brendan has no role there. So who?
Well, the organization.
Yeah.
It owns the IP.
It's a SPAC.
Sure.
And those people that are doing a transaction are not, they have zero experience in our industry. They know nothing about crypto. Explaining these dynamics to the New York Stock Exchange and some of the most conservative board members in the world, no, there's no way to do that. These things have a sequence, and it was explained, and everyone was all intent was aligned. Everyone was in agreement. The only thing was this arbitrary timeline. And they're like, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. It's like, but why? You already have all the economics. And by the way, threatening a negotiation based on threats rarely leads to a deal occurring.
But was it threats, Brock, or was it more a case of these are the stages that could occur, it should X occur, then Y will occur? Is that really a threat, or is that just laying out the roadmap of should this not happen, this will happen?
If this doesn't happen by this date, this has to happen by this date, you are not taking the time to understand the other party's perspective and all of the issues that were clearly communicated. I don't think they understood. I don't think they appreciated that complexity of a transaction. I don't know who their lawyers are. I didn't talk to them. They just kept saying, we don't see any reason why this can't happen. The lawyers should have been talking. The lawyers should have had a conversation. And I kept saying, let me talk to all the block producers. And I said to Yves many times, I want to talk to all the block producers, make the call, so they can hear this directly.
Yeah.
And he refused to arrange that call over and over again, which he's admitted is true. He's like, perhaps I should have done that before this happened. Like, I'm just trying to help explain, as the man in the middle, the circumstances and the perspective of both parties to mediate a peaceful solution. So now fast forward to, you have all the economics and you can't get the IP under threat. The only way to do that is in the spirit of good faith and collaboration.
Let me just interrupt you very briefly. So I've spoken with Aaron from Grey Mass, and he's given the indication that yes, you were all aligned, and the only reason the deal didn't happen was because Block.one or Bullish or Brendan or whomever was unable to provide any kind of legal reassurance that the IP would be transferred. I believe Aaron's exact words were, we're still waiting to hear back from him.
I'm explaining right now why that is.
Okay.
And I broke down all the details. Now, if you understand transactions and public companies and significant deals and value and valuations and documentation, large organizations, conservative situations, and where the party's not even there yet, you'll understand why this is what it is. And I was not given an opportunity to speak directly to all those parties, even though I repeatedly made myself available. And so I think it's just a very unfortunate circumstance where everyone didn't have all the information. And I don't want to blame anyone, right? We all were showing up with commercial understanding, and I believe the best intentions, just different perspectives. And we made a mistake. Mistakes made on all sides, right? But that's part of life.
Yep.
So fast forward to the end of this. All right, last day, everyone's down here. We're about to have our Helios unveiling, and that's the date they chose as the deadline. Like,
they claim it was a coincidence.
I don't know, and it probably is. I believe everything happens for a reason. It's an interesting date, and I can't say I don't know. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden, we're about to have our meeting, and I'm hosting an event on politics and independence and a movement to make a better world simultaneously, and then we're supposed to go upstairs. And instead, I'm missing my event, as I brought everyone to Puerto Rico for a lot of things. And I'm just, you just go, we're doing it right now, you got it. I'm like, they're like, Brendan has to make a tweet. I'm like, Brendan can't make a tweet without a blessing from legal.
Yeah.
He can't write tweets on sensitive things. They're like, sure he can. I'm like, no he can't. And so, I'm like, can I write the tweet? They're like, we're not sure that's good enough. I go, I can do that, no one can stop me. And they're like, I'm not sure. I go, well, I'm just gonna do it. I did it. I go, it's done. They're like, well, we'll come to an agreement to create more time if Brendan likes the tweet. That was the offer. Brendan had to get approval from legal.
To like a tweet?
To like my tweet. That's how complicated this is. And he does it. I'm like, yay! We saved the day!
We've done it. Deal's done.
Yay! And they're like, Brock, sorry. Our current agreement isn't good enough. He needs to reply to it.
So you feel they've moved the goalpost now at this moment?
They absolutely did.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, back to work. And you guys are in the building as this is happening.
Yep.
So, Brendan's like, he makes the reply. I'm like, hey, got it done. We're good. They're like, I just did what you said. We have an agreement. It's done. And then I said, I'm signing off now. I have to go host my event. Congratulations, we live another day. We're getting this done. Then we go up I barely get to show up to my event. Then we run upstairs, and we have, I think, a 2-hour interview.
An incredible conversation, incredible.
For hours, and everyone was invited. 20 of us showed up, but it was an open invitation that everybody's seen, if you were paying attention. And we have a long conversation about all the plans for Helios, even some insight into all of this, not all this color, because I felt that this was...
But it was done at this point.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're good.
Yeah, you were so, like, you were on cloud 9.
I was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
I'm always on cloud 9. You can watch this video. We're going to release it.
I can vouch. She was the happiest man in crypto that night.
I'm like, and I'm just talking about all the exciting things we're about to do and why this is all going to work. And, but I was doing it not in a promotional, salesy way. I was just kind of frank and talking about all the things because I didn't want to be selling.
You were relieved, I would suggest, more than anything. You were just happy you'd finally got there.
I felt like I had all the pressure of the EOS network on my shoulders. We were about to have war. And going between all the parties for a long time and never getting to an answer. We did it. It's not over, but we're good. We got this, And now I'm about to release all the things we're up to, and everyone's gonna be excited and good. And then, in the middle of the night,
I went to bed thinking the deal was done.
Yes.
That's all I know. My team was writing the positive stories for the morning.
I wake up in the morning, and it's like a nuclear bomb was dropped. I'm like, and by the way, in every one of my conversations with Yves and the block producers, every conversation, they said, Brock, we are so excited about you and the work that you're doing and your participation. Whatever happens, we are not touching Helios.
So was there a surprise to you when you woke up that morning? Completely shocked.
They told me in every conversation, they will not touch this. Everyone is on board, Brock, we like this. We wish, we worked out a different deal earlier, but we get it. You're in a difficult situation. We honor you, we support you. Every conversation included that guarantee. Not that I'm always willing to, we could have discussed it, but all right, cool, I'll focus here. Every conversation, repeatedly stated. Yves is like...
So you had no idea?
None whatsoever. And I think that was because they know I could have probably removed a bunch of block producers from the top 21. I could have shaken up the entire block producer network.
Let me just ask you this. Do you think that the block producers were always planning this?
I don't know. And I don't want to say because I don't know. They told me every time that we're good. We support this. Because I could have shaken up. I could have moved 100, 200 million tokens and disrupted some things.
Your top 21.
But I operated in good faith. I take people at their word. I operated in good faith and did nothing. I mean, people raise questions. Well, they're talking about doing this. Why didn't you switch your vote? Because I operated in good faith. I did everything in my power to create a peaceful outcome. And I didn't want to do a single thing that could have been a spark that led to a different outcome.
It was so delicate at that point.
And I was delicate. I was walking on eggshells. So yeah, I wake up and I'm just like, what's happened?
What the hell's happened? Just for the audience's idea, basically the multi-sig was signed by the block producers, which effectively froze your tokens on Wednesday morning.
Yes. And all of it.
And how many signatures did it take to freeze them?
Well, you need 15.
Yeah.
And
of the 21.
And there were 25 out of 30 VPs that signed. And so, the circumstances would suggest that they were lying to me the whole time. I don't know this. So that I wouldn't do anything to affect governance. So just tell me the whole time, we're good, we're good, we're good. Pretend you want peace when you don't really have any intention at all. I'm not saying that's the case, I don't know. but they're to a degree.
It's difficult to understand what else it could have been.
The circumstances kind of look like it, or I don't know. And no one would let me have a conversation. Maybe people were just so angry at Block.one that they sabotaged the deal because they never wanted a deal.
At Block.one?
No, not at Block.one. At the ENF and the block producers. Oh. I don't know. I'm still sitting here confused.
Well, we will definitely ask them.
And so, I mean, these are the facts. So then I get on the phone with Yves. I'm like, Yves. And I've been dealing with all of the challenges for now many, many months with the break. Doing everything to make this smooth. Everything that one could possibly do. In a very heated, emotional environment. And I try to operate in grace. You know, not looking for credit, not looking for praise, just get the job done. And for anyone that knows me and the work that I do, you see a lot of it, but most of what I do is never seen. I'm just there, you know, being the plumber, being the janitor, sometimes the carpenter, you know, making things happen, making it work. And I was emotional. And I think justified. And so this was definitely the first conversation Yves has ever had where I've been harsh.
And this is just you and Yves?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, Yves, how can you do this? You guys promised me we're good. No good answer. I'm like, Yves, you guys made an agreement that if I got the post, the like, the retweet, the this, we were good. You guys didn't honor your word. You rang the bell and you couldn't unring it. This was your job. You failed us. You failed a peaceful situation. I love you. I respect you, but you failed. We have to fix this. I'm also at the same time in the car racing to my NFT art gallery opening, picking up Logan Paul. 3 things going on simultaneously as I'm having these conversations, knocking on doors, and I'm in an emotional state. I do not remember making any of those statements. He says I did. I have no recollection of it. It was a heated conversation. I was emotional. It was the only tough conversation he's ever had with me. I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 things simultaneously happening with lots of witnesses physically present with me. And a few of them just being like, breathe, Brock. And I'm like, you have to get me on the phone with all the block producers immediately. I've offered this many times. You didn't make those calls happen. You failed us. You must make this call happen. We have to all talk. This can't be, it has to be an open conversation. And he's like, okay. I then, at my NFT art gallery opening, where we're doing the EOS Mintathon on Sunday, at my event yet again, I'm standing in a little stairwell in the back of the kitchen for an hour and a half holding my phone like this on a Zoom. And so, if I actually said those things, I don't know why Yves would have arranged that call right away. I probably would have said...
So you're denying that you made any death threats or any physical threats to Yves, 100%?
As I said, I have no recollection of said words or statement. And if you've ever watched me peak, that is not my nature. You can go watch 100 videos, but could I have said something stupid in that process? 3 things are going on. I don't recall it. And if I did, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I have no recollection of making those statements. Happy to go take a polygraph. I don't remember it. I mean, but it was a heated conversation. I was very emotional. I felt betrayed.
So had you said something like that, there's no way you're saying now that you would have meant it in any reality?
Absolutely not.
So do you want to take this opportunity to speak directly to Yves and just say,
of course,
I am sorry that this has happened?
I've said this many times. I so respect you. I believe in the work that you're doing and that you're capable of representing this community in the capacity that you are. We've said many times how much we appreciate each other. And literally the calls, right as this is about happening, is you want to like fly to wherever I am to give me a hug. I want to give you a hug. I appreciate you. I respect you. If any of us have made a mistake here, I am fully offering to continue to move forward and put any of the mistakes that we've made behind us. I'm willing to forgive it all. And I'm not happy about it. But I want us to do what is right for the EOS community. I would love to come back to the table to finish the job that we started. And I'm happy to talk as much as it takes to continue to work through this. I want what is best for the community, if it's what you want. And the same thing, you know, obviously, Helios is not in a position now to do what it wanted to do. The entire Helios mission is now in jeopardy. I'm still working, still doing my job, despite all of what's just happened. You know, we have an ETP, a public market like ETF for Europe, ready to go.
So let me ask you this, Rob. You would be happy to go back to the table then to carry on negotiations?
Absolutely. I want what's best for EOS.
But Brendan has said he's not comfortable to go back to the table. He feels like the negotiations are finished. So do you think there's an opportunity to rekindle the negotiations?
I am 100% certain that I can figure this out if the community wants it. I'm convinced.
And do you want to maybe take this opportunity just to apologize?
I might be wrong, but I am 100% convinced I can get it done.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm right. But I'm so confident that I'm willing to do it.
So there's been a lot of negativity around the allegations made about the death threats. A lot of people saying they no longer want to back you. So I just wondered, how can you regain the trust of those individuals?
Perhaps you can't. You just keep showing up and doing the work.
Do you think then Helios, if it does some good work, can actually regain the trust of the community through its actions?
I mean, of course, that's how trust is built. Trust is lost quickly, and it takes time to build. And there's a lot of problems of trust in this community. A lot of us are tired. A lot of us have lost some faith. And how do you restore that? Through actions, right?
So then
not words.
Tell me what's next for Helios then, given that you've lost probably 80% of your anticipated funding. What's next for the organization?
I don't know. We're still moving forward. Well, I mean, if the community doesn't want it, there's nothing to do. Stop. Right? I'm not gonna do it if it's not wanted. Why? You know, if the community has voted that they don't like it or want it, then what's the point? The whole purpose is to support our community.
But the block producers are not necessarily the EOS community itself. So sometimes people can hear the naysayers shout the loudest, but not necessarily that. There might be a quiet majority that feels differently.
Well then, make your voice heard. Come join us in the Helios Discord. Let's start doing some polls. So let's work on finding consensus. Isn't that what this is all about?
Absolutely. So, do you think that if you get some sort of positivity from the community, then you'll drive forward with Helios? But without that, you feel...
I'm still moving forward right now.
Okay.
But it's in jeopardy. I don't have the resources to do what was planned. I'm not sure if the community wants it.
Let me just ask you this, because I know this is on the tip of everyone's tongue, and it's somewhat of a naive question, but I'm still going to ask you. Assuming then you don't get the tokens and you get some sort of cash payment from Block.one, why wouldn't you then use that payment to just buy the tokens from the network or
when would I get a cash payment?
From your shares in Block.one?
In 7 years.
Oh, it's going to vest over 7 years, so you'll get a payment every once a year or whatever. You can purchase those. This is a common question I get asked to ask you.
Yeah, so in 7 years I can buy the tokens. That's great.
So you don't get paid yearly, it's at the end?
I get paid over 7 years.
So you could take some of the individual payments and buy smaller purchases of EOS, but
I've been buying a lot of EOS already.
Really?
I'd have to go look, but let's just say the day the Helios announcement was made, because I don't ever do anything with inside information, I was so confident. Let's just say I've been buying a lot.
So then,
I stopped.
Yeah, of course. So you obviously moved, I think it was about 3 million EOS from the Helios contract, I believe, to Binance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So we have a big team of forming. Like, we eat our own dog food, we pay our people in EOS. We are going to be moving transactions around. Like, we're using these tokens to accretively create value. None of them are being sold. There's no intention of selling them.
Okay.
We have plans. We're doing things. We're making moves. You know, now I have to decide, do I launch this ETP? It was scheduled to be live in the next week. But now, that's almost all, that's all the tokens. Then I can't do any of the other things. You know, this was all depending upon having, we built the plan based upon a certain amount of size of token pool. And by the way, I own a lot of other EOS long before this. I'm an EOS holder.
So you only want the best for the EOS, market cap, price, and community anyway, right?
I want what's best for the community.
Yeah.
I don't care about the price.
Well, let's talk about
money doesn't motivate me. Money is the byproduct of doing good work. I care about making this dream a reality. And if we're successful in doing that, obviously, I will benefit from the token greatly.
So let's talk a little about the European traded product then. Tell us a little about what is it and how it could benefit the EOS sector if it was to occur.
Well, having a public market way that you can call your stockbrokers and buy EOS in the same way that you have a Bitcoin ETF in the US. I mean, obviously bringing a lot of liquidity into a market.
Facilitating large transactions as well.
Yes. I mean, some things you're going to have to read between the lines.
Sure. So is this in big jeopardy now, given the situation we're in?
I don't know for sure. But this is a question for the community. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you want it? Because I'm just not sure what to do right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I know what I want to do.
Which is what?
To get all of this done.
Yeah.
But, and I need to hear from you. Do you want it? You know, I'm not the only person in the world that could do this. I mean, you got to be able to put at least $25 million worth of EOS in on day one yourself.
So it's 25 million.
That's about what you have to just to begin it.
Okay.
So, I mean, you'd have to be willing to do that, and you have to know how to do this stuff, and public markets and regulators have to be able to trust that you know what you're doing. I mean, others could figure this out. You know?
Maybe you're best placed to deploy it.
Probably.
So I think one of the most exciting...
And I was funding it.
Sure. So one of the
and lining up all the follow-on.
Really?
Retail, sales, banks, all the infrastructure to light it up. And now it's like, I mean, this was the things I was working on in terms of first moves. This was one of the big interesting ones that I was able to get done fast. We had a lot of things that's in that video, which I should probably just release.
Yeah.
I didn't release it because of the news in the morning. They were editing. It was about to go out, and I'm like, literally they stayed up all night to release that in the morning to show our output. And I said, pause. Hold up.
Yeah.
Now I need to think about what we're doing.
So Brock, I think one of the most exciting elements of Helios...
I mean, what a timing.
I know.
Just the timing of... I mean, it's very questionable timing.
I think one of the most exciting elements
because,
of
by
Helios...
the way, that video coming out in the morning may have been the catalyst that would have prevented this from happening. It was like, we have to press the button now or maybe we won't be able to. I don't know.
It's a difficult situation.
For all of us.
Yeah.
And again, total compassion. I get it. I understand everybody's situation. At least I'm doing my best to.
Yeah.
And to have compassion for it. And patience and understanding. Respect.
So, is the notion of investing in projects from Helios kind of still up in the air? Because that was one of the most exciting elements coming out of the Helios VC. The desperate need for an EOS VC that was functional.
We have a whole pipeline and a plan. We had 8 deals figured out already that we were about to.
Are they dead?
I don't know right now. I don't know. I want it to be done. The first 8 and then the 80. I mean, you're about to see what I'm about to do in the heavens. I was literally crying at dinner last night because I had to decide whether or not I remove this from what I'm about to do. Literally, I'm having to make this final decision. And everyone's like, Mark, what do we do? And I'm just like, how? I'm literally I'm just sitting there at a dinner table in front of everyone, just having to make this decision. And they're like, do you need to go outside? I'm like, no, I don't care. Happy to do this in front of everyone.
I can see it's difficult for you.
I'm like, no, the show goes on. Keep it in. I'm not done yet. I'm not giving up. But I need to know from the community whether you want these things. You have to tell me, do you want me to do this stuff or not? I'm not going to do it if you don't want me to. Why would I do that?
Okay, so we've got a question in from the community, which I'm gonna ask you, really. So what's your opinion, Brock, on the recent multi-sig signed by the BP's free? Let me start that one again. So Brock, what are your opinions on DPoS, and do you still support the model?
So in the video you're going to see from that night, when I thought we've come to an agreement, everything I was told we did. Anyway, in the beginning there was the word. And you know the book, the 4 agreements. Our word matters. I took everyone at their word.
But what about DPoS? Do you believe in the model?
I said in the video, I wasn't sure in the beginning. Right? I thought I saw great potential in its scale and the governance could work, but you don't know. Now fast forward, watching what's happening, I said that night, I think DPoS works. I'm feeling this is an example of governance working. I'm like, this is really good. I don't know how I feel about it right now. I believe in due process. I believe in clear consensus. I've got concerns about a token-weighted governance model. I think the BPs are meant to be the infrastructure and the security, not the judge, jury, and executioner. And certainly in a non-transparent, non-consensus-based process. I mean, where are the polls? I'm not sure how I feel about the BPs just being the sole decision makers. What I was excited about was the prospects of Eden being our governance model. That I was seeing a constellation forming of the ENF as treasury, the BPs as security and infrastructure, Eden as governance. We could have a judicial sort of system and process we've worked on but had, failed. Pomelo for crowdfunding and consensus building. Helios around investing. I was seeing a framework that was very exciting. I have some concerns. That doesn't mean I don't believe. My faith is being tested. And nothing that was done here can't be undone.
Let me just ask you this about block producers. So I've heard people describe block producers as cartels, and the fact that they may have broken their social contract by saying they were not going to buy votes, but then buying votes. So I just wondered, what's your view on those opinions?
It's been one of my concerns for a long time. I never liked what I saw with vote buying. I don't like 1 token, 30 votes. I would have preferred a 1 token, 1 vote model.
Should be egalitarian.
Yeah, I mean, the design really incentivizes collusion and system capture and deal making. I have some questions. I have some concerns, but these are not new concerns. I was getting comfortable that the BPs had proven themselves that this model works, right? I've gotten comfortable. That's what I was saying that night. I literally, I feel good enough. I'm ready to push forward. Like I've always had concerns. I've voiced them before. It's not the first time I've talked openly about my concerns. I have bigger concerns now. And this is not just for EOS. We've just set a precedent that affects every chain running on a similar model of consensus. It's scary. And I don't think we formed adequate consensus to do something that jeopardizes the whole thing. Like, I don't want humanity to be stuck in this same reality 2,000 years from now. That's what I believe is at stake right now. We're either going to upgrade into a better world that can work for everyone right now, or the same system of control and crony capitalism and regulatory capture and corruption. We probably have to live through this another 2,000 years. Same story.
What can we do differently then, Brock?
Get it done right. That's what is at stake. That's why I'm so passionate. Because I know what we're doing. I have a very broad perspective. I've been there. I know things. I've seen things. Can I pick up the phone and get the President of the United States on the phone anytime? No. Do I talk to senior members of government on basically a daily basis all over the country and all over the world? Yes. That's not meant to be in any way threatening. That's a look at all the ways I can be helpful. Because I mentioned that on the block producer call. In no way was I being threatening on that call. I was explaining, guys, here's who I am. Here's why we should make this work. Here's all the good stuff I can do. I mean, they probably recorded it, so
but do you see that if the alleged allegations...
But by the way, things could be also lost in translation. 2/3 of that call, or half that call, was just translating into Chinese. Yeah. And so, a lot of things get lost in translation. And so,
so do you think then, given the allegations that Yves has made, do you think then that the block producers may have taken what you said about POTUS and then may have, given the context, then felt slightly concerned about it?
Well, I'd go back and if they recorded it, watch the video. It wasn't POTUS.
You didn't mention POTUS at all?
I said I deal with people like, I didn't use names on a regular basis. I wasn't going to spell it out. I do this kind of work. You don't just
give me a chance to fix it. Yeah, I get it. All right.
And literally, all I was making in that entire call is why I think this is important, why we need to come back to the table, what I advise them to do, which is the ball is in your court. Make a statement saying you're willing to come back to the table. I said that's all we got to do right now. That solves all of it. You just have to make one statement. And we agreed at the end of the call they were going to do that. Full agreement. And it didn't happen either.
So in your summation, that the block producers are to blame for this collapse of negotiations, and maybe Dan initially?
We're all to blame.
Okay.
Because it's not about blame. I don't want to use the word blame. It's just we're going through the circumstances. We're going full circle. It's just negotiations, balls go back and forth. They took the ball. The ball is in their court. All they had to do is make one little statement saying, hey, by the way, we're just testing things. We can change this. We're still willing to, we would like peace. Let's come back to the table. Just any little tweet.
Yeah.
I said, you got to do nothing more than you were asking of Brendan. Just something little. And Yves, at the end of this very long call, as I'm missing my entire event, standing in a corner like in a closet, like for an hour and a half, my arm hurting. Like, that's all you gotta do. He's just like, okay, any other questions? Is everyone in agreement to do this? Speak now, or I'm gonna send this message out. The call ended with consensus. That message was going out. And then I'm following up with Yves. A day later, a whole nother message comes out with none of what was agreed upon in it.
So, bro, I want to shift gears.
Again, this does not inspire a lot of trust.
No, I understand. I want to shift gears a little bit. So, I want to talk about the recent SEC and Ripple case. So, I believe it was the head of the SEC said under testimony that in their summation, Bitcoin and Ethereum are no longer, or never were SEC approved. So, I wondered, what kind of market opportunity does that present to EOS, and what can we do to improve the buying pressure in the EOS sector?
Yeah, so government. I said this, changed my mind, it didn't mean that, right? So I don't think you can say with certainty that the government may not decide that Bitcoin is a security or Ethereum is a security or EOS is a...
It's in flux.
Yeah, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, and EOS are in the best situation of all of them. They've gone through, call it phase one. You know, do they roll back their view? This is in flux. But I do think this is one of the main attributes that differentiates EOS, how careful Block.one was to make sure, if you don't know what rules are, what a collective investment scheme is, look that up. If you don't know what an active participant is, look that up. If a foundation took money in and does things that could increase the price of a token, knowingly doing that, it could be deemed a collective investment scheme, the whole thing becomes a security. Active participant, if Block.one did anything directly with EOS, could be deemed an active participant, the whole thing could become a security. I don't think any of the foundations and almost anyone in the industry understands this. Most of them only understand the Howey test. It's a lot more. And I mean, Block.one, Brendan, never intended to use any of these tokens for any reason other than to support the community. They were never booked on the balance sheet as an asset. That's fact. Meaning their intention, literally on their balance sheet, makes clear they never intended to do that. Brendan has repeatedly showed up, but we have to be compassionate of his circumstances, respectful of his circumstances, which almost no one understands. This stuff's really complicated. You know, we all want the same thing. What's best for EOS? And we all have different roles. And we have to let everyone play their role and be their best selves and be responsible for the things they're trying to lead. It's really heartbreaking.
So what's next for EOS then? Do you think there's any way we can end this polarization and bring, as you said on our last interview, the band back together again? Because
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
If so, how?
Divided we fall, united we stand. It's all about unity. We gotta like, Oponopono, we gotta go through like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, I thank you, so that we can make a collective step forward in unity as a whole community. Of course that's possible, but it's hard. It requires forgiving. You know, it requires unity.
So you're prepared to forgive. Are you effectively asking the community to do the same to you?
And to all of us. I mean, he said this, he heard that, she did what? There's a lot.
Childish, he said, she said.
There's a lot of problems, a lot of pain in this community, a lot of hurt, a lot of suffering.
A lot of promises not fulfilled.
A lot of promises from a lot of parties.
Yeah.
It's easy to point the finger at one person, but remember to look in the mirror. Did you do everything you could? Did you make any mistakes?
I mean, I've never made a mistake.
You know, that's how
Every day.
That's how we move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so we're at Blockchain Week now in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So I just want to know, how have you found Blockchain Week has gone so far, and what can we do better next year?
I mean, it's been phenomenal, magical. It's just like, it's on fire, the energy. It's the same community that came into EOS in the beginning. Super conscious, mindful, future, multi-dimensional people that are like the principles of Burning Man. It's like, I mean, what's your view? As one of the organizers and ringleaders, I'd rather hear from you what you think.
I mean, I've absolutely loved it, but I'm certain that the audience is going to be a lot more interested in what you have to say.
Hey,
from my view, I think it's been phenomenal. I've really enjoyed myself.
It's phenomenal.
The location couldn't be better. Sometimes it seemed a little bit slapdash, if I'm completely honest.
It was decentralized.
It was decentralized, and it felt decentralized.
It was decentralized.
But it felt authentic, and that's the most important thing.
Nobody
and
runs it.
I've had a great time.
Nobody runs it.
Yeah.
I hosted 12 events.
Every day.
There had to be 100 events this week. You know, it's like, and everybody just kind of in flow is like, go that way.
And what's happening tonight then in this event?
This is closing party. This is my production company. I'm one of my many things I do called Aratos. Some of my favorite DJs, favorite people present. 100 of the Miss World contestants, because the 70th year anniversary is here in Puerto Rico on Thursday.
So they're having the Miss World event in Puerto Rico this Thursday.
Yes.
So check that out, guys. If you want to watch Miss World, it's in Puerto Rico.
Over 1 billion people see it.
Wow.
And by the way, I was going to put EOS in it, like a video that's over 1 billion people. That I can't do right now. I can't. This is another organization.
That sucks.
No, I was going to show it to over 1 billion people. And the video got logged, but I can't drag controversy into such a reputable organization with more people see this than the Super Bowl. Live televised in over 150 nations. I mean, this stuff is affecting the plan. Yeah. There are things where this is my event, this is my show. I can make the decision, which was even hard. And so, I mean, you're gonna see the video. The sun rises out of the ocean into the heavens, and the sun becomes the Helios logo, which transforms into EOS. And you're just gonna see up there, and the show just keeps going, the Puerto Rico flag, the parrot. It's gonna be like unlike anything you've probably ever seen in your life.
So it's been a great interview. Thank you so much for giving all your time up. I know you're a busy man, Rock. So I just want to conclude with a question from the audience. Basically, given the situation we're in today, what's next for Helios and what's next for EOS?
Well, I mean, they're not one and the same, but the answer is similar. The future of EOS is up to us. It's what we make it. What is the community of EOS? Are we an inclusive community? Are we a compassionate community? Do we build best-in-class tech? Do we support newcomers? Do we deliver the right message with the right medium? Do we create trust and create faith and belief and make resources available to the projects that need it or public good? Do we have the right governance? It's what we make it, which is why it's so important that you make your voices heard. The future of EOS is going to happen. And what it becomes is ultimately going to be decided by us collectively, which is why you have to show up. I'm showing up. Come join me in the Helios Discord, and if you got other questions, engage. We're available. We're here. And I'm committed to doing what I can, but it's not up to me. It's up to us. Let me know.
Now, Brock, this is the very last question, I promise. I know you're busy. Now, my money's on Sweden, but please tell me, who do you think is going to win Miss World 2021?
So the winner is determined by their purpose. This is not just a beauty pageant. These women are like ambassadors of their nation. They are all like, the primary focus is, what is the philanthropic thing that their country needs? I mean, if you're not familiar with this organization and the impact that it has on the world, it is amazing. These women are, I mean, they're multi-dimensional, just extraordinary representatives of their countries. And so, I don't know enough because I've not been a judge of the things. I just hope the one that's going to make the biggest positive impact in the world wins.
Well, Brock, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being very candid and forthright with your answers. I'm sure the community will appreciate it. And thank you again.
My pleasure.